So, do you ever get this feeling where you have a rough idea of the things that you would want to get done for the day, but the whole day flies by and you haven't really done anything? And you wonder, like, where did the time go? And on the flip side, do you also get the feeling where you're working within a time constraint where you got to meet a deadline, or that you need to get certain things done because you have a vacation, or like a flight, right, that to catch, on a Friday night, or on a early Saturday morning. So it's like, why is it that you produce at a 500% faster rate when you're working within a time constraint versus on the first example where the day just kind of flies by and you wonder where the time went? And yes, like, a lot of people work well under pressure, right? I think when there is a certain deadline to meet, or like a certain end time, people have no choice but to work as fast as it takes in order to get the task done, right? So there's a lot of pressure within that, like, limited time frame. So there's a lot of time pressure. And although that is an effective way to kind of crank up productivity and stay focused on the task, I want to make the argument that time pressure, or like a time constraint, isn't necessarily needed for us to produce at a high level, right? So what I'm saying is that we can still produce at a high level without there having to be like a get this done by X deadline, because although that might be an effective way to work, it is also a stressful way to work. I do feel like, although there might be some benefits to working within a deadline with time pressure, there are also benefits to kind of going at your own pace and still producing at a really high level. That's why in this video, I want to talk about intentions, specifically being intentional with your time. So I'm going to go over 5 ways on how to be more intentional with your time. And I think one of the benefit of being intentional with your time versus being driven by certain deadlines is that you can be at a lot more peace with your actions, versus I feel like a lot of times when you are driven by deadline, it just kind of becomes like, oh yeah, just like do whatever it takes to get it done, right? Whereas if you're working intentionally and spending your time intentionally, you can still complete the task quickly and in excellence, and even be able to put in extra attention and effort into those tasks that you complete. So the first way of being intentional with your time is by asking, what do you want? What do you want to do with your time? Do you want to go about your Monday just kind of dreading it? Do you want to go about your Monday just kind of going with the motions? Or do you want to go into Monday with a bang, right? So a lot of people, myself included, it's so normal for us to just kind of go about our day, right? It's the routine. Like, there's no need to question anything. We know exactly what the routine is like. If you work a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, you know the routine. Monday, first day of the work week. log on or whatever, clock in, and you go into the mode, right? So for me, my Mondays would be wake up, hop on the computer, pop into the company messenger channel, check email, and start working. There's really no question to it. And as the day goes on, it's like work, lunch, break, meetings, and then 5 o'clock rolls around, and then it's like done. And it's like Monday to Friday, rinse and repeat. When I lack being intentional with my day, I oftentimes feel myself approaching the end of the day, and I'm just like, wow, where did all the time go? Because I did not ask myself how I wanted my day to look like. I just went into zombie mode and did what I usually do. I just, like after work or whatever, I just end up zoning out, going on YouTube for hours, like social media, like whatever it is, right? Like, I'm not saying I do that every day, but, there are many days where like I am just not intentional with my day. Like I fail to ask myself, like, how do I want my day to turn out, right? Because like scrolling on social media or spending like hours on YouTube and just kind of like unwinding, like it's really not a good use of my time. I'm not saying like we shouldn't take breaks and we shouldn't have downtime. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that when we are not intentional with how we allocate our time, the day flies by. So if you think about like, if you had like an upcoming vacation or something, right? And it was, like let's say today is a Friday and your flight is tomorrow. Like you're gonna be asking yourself like, what do I need to get done, right? So that's you asking yourself like, how do you want your day to turn out to be? Like 9 to 5 is like work, right? Maybe you might like squeeze in some downtime or some break or a lunch to like, take care of some errands, right? Like whatever, like drop off some packages or, go pick something up. You're finding ways to maximize your time and do what you need to do. And like once 5 o'clock hits, like you're gonna be like packing your bags. You're gonna be like, I don't know, like taking care of all your bills ahead of time. You're gonna be like doing all these things because like you ask yourself the question of like, what do you want your day to look like? So that's why I think it's really important to set the intention for the day by asking yourself, what do you want? The second point is to write it down. Call it whatever you want, right? Call it the law of attraction, call it pseudoscience, call it bullshit. Like it doesn't really matter, but there is a power to jotting things down on a piece of paper and seeing it visually. Whether you write it out as a statement or, whether it's written out as a plan or whether you put it out in the world in a form of like a Google Calendar. Like these are all ways to kind of transfer your intention from your mind into the physical world. And if you're anything like an overthinker, you have like a million thoughts in your head, and like it's just your thoughts are just there, like floating around in your head, and you can see how like messy and chaotic that gets. So when you transfer thoughts to paper or thoughts to Google Calendar or whatever, you are putting your intention and your plan and your desires out into the world on a piece of paper or on the computer. But not only that, like when you put it out there and you also get to see it, it's like an affirmation or like a reassurance that it's like, okay, like this is exactly like what I want. And like it's kind of like a feedback loop where you put it out there and you're seeing it, and then it's like going back to you. So it's like just reminding you of your intentions and like what you plan to do or who you plan to be. Point number 3 is to create time. And create time simply just means make time for your plans. Make time for your intention. You might have seen this in your own life or in the lives of those around you, but how many times have you or you've seen other people, say things like, oh yeah, like, family or whatever, or like, working out is so important to me. It's like my number one goal. But then you kind of see how they spend their time, and there's no time dedicated to those quote unquote important things. And I'm guilty of doing this. Like there were many times like in the past where I claimed that something was important to me, but if you pull up my calendar, you're like, where's that thing? Like where's that thing that you said was your number one priority? Like I barely see it on the calendar, or I don't see it at all. So like where's that thing? So it's kind of like if I said like exercise was my main, priority or whatever, but you see that I'm spending 10 hours a week on YouTube, just watching cat videos or something. That's like a misalignment with what I'm saying and what I'm actually doing. So it's like, if you live, 1,000 miles away from your family and you say family is number one, but yet like there was no calls made to your family or, no video chat, then it's like you failed to create the time for those things that are important to you. In a sense, it's like if it ain't on the calendar, it ain't happening. So be sure to create time and schedule it for those things that are important to you. Point number 4 is to set up your environment for you to win. This could take many different forms. For some people, it could be, tidying your space before you tackle a certain task on like your computer, or having a clean space before you write in your journal, right? For me, a big one is to not be hungry before I dig into a task. What happened to me when I tried to say edit a YouTube video or put my head down and just focus on work is that when I try to do that, and I'm like kind of hungry, I'll find myself getting up off my ass like 10 minutes or whatever into the task and just like looking for a snack. And because I'm looking for a snack, like the snack isn't really gonna fill me up to the extent where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm full for like the next, couple hours or whatever. So it's just this like bad cycle that I'm like, okay, I'm like a little bit hungry, so therefore I can't focus on this task. So then I'm gonna go look for a snack, which I'm gonna snack on, and then chances are I'm probably gonna get up again, within like 20 minutes because that snack was so small. So, and that's an example of me not setting myself up to win, or like me not setting my environment, in this case, my stomach, for me to win. It could even be changing your environment. I know for me, if I stay in a particular spot for too many days, like I am gonna lose focus in that environment. For me, like I work from home with my day job at like mainly my dining table, and I eat at my dining table, and I watch TV or YouTube, Netflix, at my dining table, and I edit my YouTube videos at my dining table. So there's just many activities that I do in the same spot that when I do that for too long, my focus for for like a particular task is gonna go down because I have basically like blended so many different tasks at that same spot, right? So unfortunately, like I lose focus. So one thing that I do is like if I really want to focus on something, then I will physically move to a different spot. Whether that's going to a coffee shop or going to a co-working space. And like every time I do that, my focus and intentionality just goes way up. And point number 5 is after you've done your best to set yourself up with all the previous 4 points, is to utilize the Pomodoro technique. So if you're not familiar with the Pomodoro technique, it's basically to set up a timer for 25 minutes and to work without distraction for the entire 25 minutes, and then you can take a 5-minute break. For me, I sometimes just use 15 minutes or so of uninterrupted focus work. And like you can do whatever you want, but for me, sometimes I like that quick win. So that's why I set 15 minutes. Whenever you're doing the Pomodoro technique, it's really, really important for you to stay disciplined in not allowing yourself to be distracted. So if like your phone is your main source of distraction, or you like to pick up the phone to check your notification, or just open up that Facebook app real quick, 10 seconds to check it, please do your best to not do that. Because kind of like my example of me doing everything at my dining table, once you start allowing yourself to get distracted while you're using the Pomodoro technique, it just becomes less and less effective. So if you find yourself struggling to focus for 25 minutes, do something like what I do, like set it up for 15 minutes, set it up for 10 minutes if you want. Just promise yourself that you will put your phone on silent or, hide it somewhere and like not allow yourself to get distracted. Once you allow yourself to get distracted, you're going to keep allowing that. And, before you know it, like no technique in the world is going to help, because whatever new strategy or technique that you use, you're just going to become lax with it. And, it's just not going to be what the technique was intended for. This technique really serves 2 purposes. One is to prevent distractions, and 2 is for you to execute. So if you can start out small, right, with 10 or 15 minutes of uninterrupted work, you get the small win and you get to feel like you're making progress. And if you're someone who struggles with focusing and doing work without getting interrupted, you're gonna feel like those 10 or 15 minutes of work is equivalent to like an hour. I know for me, when I work at my job, between all of the Slack messages and emails and just checking different like platforms and everything, like 15 minutes of uninterrupted work is sometimes literally more than what I would do normally in an hour. So just to reiterate, the 5 points are: what do you want? Write it down. Create time. Set up your environment for you to win. And use some form of the Pomodoro technique. So yeah, I hope you guys give this a go, and I really hope that this does something for you guys.